Last month, President Trump tested positive for SARS-CoV-2, the virus which causes the COVID-19 disease. Dozens of other people within the White House and those who have visited recently also tested positive for the virus, including senior staff, advisors, and several senior military leaders. People immediately wondered, what would happen if Trump became severely ill and was forced to transfer power to the vice president? Well, this begs the question, what would happen in Indonesia if President Widodo contracts the COVID-19 disease and is unable to perform his duties? Well, if President Widodo is indeed incapacitated, the MPR, a joint session between the House and Senate, would hold a session within 3 days to inaugurate Vice President Amin as the new president. President Amin would then serve out the rest of his term until 2024. Now, what's interesting with this scenario is that Amin is not a member of the PDIP party or very close to PDIP chairwoman Megawati, but rather has a strong connection to the PKB party and NU. So such an event would not only be a major change to leadership, but also a major political shift and likely political chaos among the parties and cabinet as they try to realign themselves with the new president. So if Amin replaces Widodo as president, who would become his new vice president? President Amin would submit 2 VP candidates to the MPR for consideration. The MPR must choose one of the candidates within 60 days. Now, from the other angle, let's say Vice President Amin gets the COVID-19 disease and his health deteriorates to the point that he is unable to perform his obligations and he must step down. Then what happens? Well, similar to the process that I mentioned earlier, the President Widodo would propose 2 candidates and the MPR would pick one. The MPR must hold a session to pick the new VP within 60 days. The candidate that garners the most votes during the MPR session will become the new VP. If there's a tie, the voting would be repeated. If the result is still a tie, the president himself would choose one of the candidates. Now, this is also interesting because unlike with the 2019 presidential election, where PDIP and their coalition held a lot of political power over Widodo and ultimately decided who his vice president would be. In this case, President Widodo would have more leverage as he would propose the candidate to the MPR, not the parties. So I would expect Golkar and Gerindra to exploit the situation as much as possible if the situation really did happen. So it's super fascinating. Now, the doomsday scenario, the worst situation. Let's say both President Widodo and Vice President Amin contract the virus and are incapacitated due to the disease. Their duties would be taken over by a 3-person regime, the so-called Triumvirate, or trio. This would be the Foreign Minister, Ibu Retno, the Minister of Home Affairs, Pak Tito, and the Minister of Defense, Pak Prabowo. Each member of the Triumvirate technically would have equal status in the new leadership, but in reality, it would be major jostling for the leadership and power in such a situation. It wouldn't be a good mix. You would have Ibu Retno, a career civil servant who was used to that environment, Pak Tito, a former chief of the National Police, and of course, Pak Prabowo, a former army general and chairman of the Gerindra party, which is the 3rd largest faction in parliament. So it wouldn't be a good situation as all 3 of these would probably want to lead. And after all, you can't have 3 cooks in the kitchen. So what happens after the Triumvirate is formed? The MPR would hold a session within 30 days to elect a new president and new vice president. The new candidates would be proposed by the political party or the coalition that obtained the 1st and 2nd most votes in the 2019 election. So that coalition would be PDIP, Golkar, PKB, NASDEM, PPP, and PKB. The new leaders would then take over for Widodo and Amin for the rest of their term until 2024. The role of the Triumvirate or trio is acknowledged in the Constitution, but there's never been a situation where that has been practiced, and hopefully it never will be. So let's hope everyone stays safe and healthy.